From below, she was never meant to feel human.
Millions have looked at her without ever thinking she might be looking back.
From below, she was never meant to feel human. She was designed to be seen, not to be understood. And the highest point was the one no one could reach anymore. Inside her, the space was never meant to be empty.
The structure was not hollow, it was layered.
Every sound remained, as if nothing inside was allowed to escape. The higher you climbed, the less it felt like a monument.
The air changed. Not thinner, but heavier. That no map ever showed. Corridors existed, not for passage, but for separation.
Some doors were not locked. They were abandoned.
And when something is left untouched long enough, it does not remain empty. It was not movement, but something responding from the other side. The door did not open, but something changed the moment it was touched. The space did not move, but it no longer felt the same. Distance shifted, not in space, but in how it was perceived.
Time followed, but not at the same speed.
It was no longer behind the door. It had already reached beyond it.
At first, it felt like disorientation, but it was something else. It was not that he could not see. It was that he could not trust what he saw. Then came the moment when he realized he was no longer alone. It was not following him, it was waiting for him to notice.
And in that moment, he understood it had always been watching. It did not move closer, but something inside him began to change. Thoughts no longer formed clearly. They arrived already altered. What he felt did not match what he saw.
And then, he began to feel something that was not there.
It was not inside the structure. It was now inside his perception.
He could still remember, but the memory no longer felt like his. Images appeared, not as thoughts, but as something already placed inside him. He could not tell if he was remembering or being shown.
And then came something he knew had never happened to him.
It was not giving him information, it was replacing what he already knew.
He was still there, but no longer the one deciding.
The body moved before the thought could form.
It did not force him. It replaced the command. There was no resistance, because there was no longer a choice. He was not being controlled. He had become the control point.
It did not remain within him. It began to extend beyond.
The structure itself began to respond.
It was no longer a presence. It was becoming a system.
It no longer searched. It aligned everything around it.
It was no longer inside the statue. It was the statue.
Outside, nothing appeared to have changed.
But stability is often only a surface condition.
People continued moving, but not always with intention.
It did not need to be seen to begin affecting what was seen.
And still, no one thought to look at her differently.
It did not spread like a force. It spread like a condition.
It did not change what people saw, only how they processed it.
Below the surface, the pattern continued.
Nothing stopped working, it just stopped aligning.
It was not visible, but it was everywhere at once.
At some point, people began to notice.
Not enough to understand, but enough to feel it.
So I told him we need to adjust the metrics by Tuesday.
Right, but what about the
stakeholders? Yeah, I know.
They could still see themselves, but something felt off in the reflection.
It was not a change they could point to, only something they could not ignore.
It was not spreading, it was revealing itself.
It had never arrived, because it had never left.
What they thought was normal had always been incomplete.
It was not a presence. It was the condition everything existed within.
And she was never the source, only the place they learned to see it.
They did not fight it, because there was nothing to fight.
It no longer disrupted reality. It defined it.
And through it all, she remained exactly as she had always been.
They stopped questioning it because there was no longer anything to compare it to.
She did not change, because she never needed to.
Everything else adjusted around her, until nothing felt different anymore. And if something had always been watching, there would be no moment you could point to and say it began.
She was never just a symbol. She was always watching.